if you would, journey to the book of Matthew. Journey to the book of Matthew. Now, I know if you were in the sanctuary, I would say this. I would say, as you're able, would you stand for the reading of the gospel that sets us free? So I will say this because we're doing church wherever you are. As you are able, please stand for the reading of the gospel which sets us free. Now hear these words of Matthew, chapter 11, verses 28 through 30. At that time, Jesus said, I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and the learned and revealed them to your children. Yes, Father, for this is what you were pleased to do. All things have been committed to me by my Father. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and those to whom the Son chooses to reveal. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Journey the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. I want to say and start the sermon. Here's the sermon title. It's called Soul Talk, a conversation on God's couch. Soul Talk, a conversation on God's couch. But I also want to put this disclaimer in, and I think it's very important. So I want to say this. I have Jesus, and I also have a therapist. I have Jesus, and I also have a therapist. I have a therapist, but I also know the therapist. So I think that's important for us, for me to say that in today. Okay, so right now, if you would join me in watching this video, and I will come back before you after the video.
Now everything in this world has to shut all the way down, so nobody has to go anywhere because of their shutdown. The ice cream truck is shut down, and the water truck place is shut down, which is my favorite part because it has my favorite one.
What's that?
Yeah, it has the gumball one where there's gunballs and there's like blues. And now they have to shut all the way down, and we can't go anywhere. Not even McDonald's, which is my favorite restaurant.
McDonald's is shut down too. You can pick up McDonald's in the drive-thru.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't.
You can. You can go in the drive-thru, but you can't go on the playground.
Yeah, it's just really frustrating. If you go through the drive-thru, it's just boring because you have to wait for your food to come. And if you're inside playing on the playground, it wouldn't be boring.
Yeah.
And now they have to shut down. It's just boring when you're waiting for food to come.
Yeah.
And now everything in this town has to shut all the way down. And I just don't want it to do that. I mean, why would germs come around to people if they don't want germs to come around to them?
I know.
Because everyone doesn't like germs because they get sick, and everything has to be shut down for everybody to be safe.
Yeah.
And it's just not fair because everything that is fun also has to be shut down.
Yeah.
And the only thing that is open is nothing. Nothing.
Except homes, cars.
Nothing. Yeah. And actually, maybe church too. We can't go to church.
Yeah, and it's just really fun.
We're doing home church. That's why we're doing church on the TV, right?
Yeah, too.
Wow.
Like Play-Doh, candy. And once I got that fish kind, and it's just, I only wanted to have fun with Play-Doh, so I bought it, and now everything in this world has to be shut down, and it's not fair because my parents.
I'm sorry. It's a lot. It won't last forever.
Yeah, just for a few weeks.
Yeah.
But we're doing so everybody can be safe, right?
Mom, tomorrow will I be able to play on my iPad? Can I play on my iPad?
Thank you, Blake. I appreciate it very much. I love you very much.
Sure.
Just now.
Amen. Now, that little girl's name is Blake, and she has over almost 9 million views. And I thought that would be a good intro for what some of us are feeling right now during this quarantine. But I also was aware that she is a little girl that has parents, and so as a protective father of 2 adult young women, I talked to the dad on Facebook. I said, hey, is it okay if I use Blake as my intro? And he actually said, he texted me back and said, yeah, it's okay. He said, thank you for your kind words. We hope Blake's words will bring some levity to what we're all feeling. He said, sorry it took a bit, but my message went to spam. We have family in Bishopville, and they're from Arizona. So I want to thank Brother Ben and his little daughter Blake and his wife for allowing us to use that video. Now, Jesus is very, very particular in how he handles things when it comes to our little children. So when I saw that video, the first thing that came to mind was, how are our little children, our youth, how are they handling things during the pandemic? I was so glad and pleased to know that we're having VBS for them this week, which gives them an opportunity to connect, via it virtually, but it gives them an opportunity to see one another. Now, Jesus is real particular. He says this about the little children. He revealed things to little children. He says this. Jesus said, let the little children come to me and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. He also said, I truly tell you, unless you change and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Well, Sister Blake said it this way. She said everything had to be shut down, including the ice cream truck. Now, from an adult perspective, you may say, well, we can minimize, well, it's just an ice cream truck, but perhaps in your world, it may be your job, it may be a place where your school, or a place that you were going for rest, such as a vacation, whatever it may be, that's similar to what she's experiencing by having that ice cream truck and not being able to go. She goes on and she says, McDonald's is also closed. And her dad says, no, Blake, that you can go through the drive-through. But she quickly says, no, Dad, no, I mean where I can go out and play. She's trying to articulate how she's feeling about what's going on during the virus. She's articulating how hard it is to social distance. Because perhaps she goes to McDonald's not just for the Happy Meal, but what makes her happy is getting the opportunity to go in the playground and meet her friends and other people and to high-five them and fist bump them, all the things that she had been doing up until March 13th of this year. She's saying what merely some of us feel, but are perhaps holding it in and not willing to or wanting to express how hard that is. She says everything is shut down. And she says, why would germs come around people if they don't want them? She said, it's not fair. She cries and said, everything that is open is nothing. Her dad tries to tell her that even though, he said, but look, at least we get the opportunity to see church online. The church on TV is how he says it. Sister Blake, little Sister Blake says, Dad, no, I mean real church. She's talking about her experience, how when she goes to children's church that she gets an opportunity to play with Play-Doh and also see her friends, and she also gets some candy. She says it's not fair. But notice when the mother says, what the mother says, she doesn't try to fix something that she knows she cannot fix. She cannot just wave a wand and all of a sudden that this coronavirus is going to disappear. She knows that she can't fix it, but she says something that is a game changer in this conversation. She says, I'm sorry. That's a lot. Understand, for those of us who've had any kind of chaplaincy training, or my grief share people know that we don't try to fix people. We just affirm their pain. And so what she knows and what she understands is that the mother knows that if I tell her, well, it's not going to be long, or I don't know the things that she can't control, that she's trying to help her control, that she knows that won't be good for little Blake. She says, I'm sorry, that's a lot. And in response, she says, little Blakely says, it won't last forever. I don't know exactly how old little Miss Blake is, but she can't be any more than 5. But just because her father and her parents affirmed her and said, I'm sorry, that's a lot, she began to get some type of healing from being able to confess that we are doing this so that we can remain safe, is what her father says. And little Miss Blake says, maybe only 2 weeks. And the dad says, yeah, maybe. Didn't say definite because he doesn't know. She then asked, can I play on my iPad tomorrow with a smile? And the mother says, I love you, and then says yes. Oh, it's so much in this dialogue, that when we are able to come as Jesus invites us to come and have a conversation with him on God's couch. But out of the mouth of babes, she was brave enough. She was vulnerable enough. She was courageous enough to share her innermost feelings. And what I'm trying to say, Journey, is without lamenting and without confessing our feelings and without taking them to the Lord, sometimes, as much as we try to rest, as much as we try to sleep, your soul doesn't get the notice. And we get stuck in our situation. There's something about crying out to the Father and earnestly sharing your emotions that brings healing. Jesus is very clear. He's saying, come to me. He didn't direct you or refer you to another physician. He says, merely come to me. He said, all you who are weary and all of you who are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. So Jesus, his prayer turns into an invitation for us to come to God's couch for a soul talk. This invitation is for the ones of us who are weary, who are heavily burdened. And notice, if you know and understand, that Jesus is saying this to the common people and not to the leaders. Because what he's saying is, in the midst of this heaviness and this weariness, some of this is coming from our leadership. Amen. Somebody. The heavy burden that's laid on the common people is rather an issue of selfishness. And he says, and they were trying to do all of this to the people and even putting restrictions on the Sabbath, while all the time ignoring the human need. But Jesus is saying to us that Jesus says that I am the door. John 10:9 says, Jesus said to them, truly I say to you that I am the door of my sheep. And what Jesus is merely telling us, that in order to get your rest, that in order to have that soul talk, there are some things that you need to know. You need to trust that Jesus is at the door. He said it. He said, knock. Right? He's knocking at the door. He's always knocking at the door and bidding for us and asking us to come in. You see, little Blake knew her parents were the door for her healing. Then understand that the door leads to the room that leads to the couch where God is. But if you don't open the door, which is the trust in God, then you can't come into the room where God is. I'm just saying that we need to open the door that leads to the room, that leads to the couch where God is. Well, if in the old church where I grew up, they would say it this way. They would say, come on in the room. Jesus is my doctor, and he writes all my prescriptions, and you just have to come on in the room. There's a knock at the door. It's Jesus. You open the door, and you come on into the room. Well, for my young folks that may not understand how that older lady that sang that song, Come On in the Room, maybe you've heard it from the musical Hamilton, and Hamilton says, come in the room as well, but they say it like this. Bird says, I want to be, I gotta be, I want to be in that room, in the big old room. I want to be in the room where it all happens. Quarantine has got me watching Hamilton. I digress. But I know we have to come on into the room. If we're able to trust God, if we're able to trust Jesus, then we have the opportunity to come on into that room and get on God's couch. What's the couch got to do with it, Reverend? What's the couch have to do with it? According to Dr. Kuntz, she said, there on that couch, we want to go beneath the surface and beyond the ordinary concerns of the day. We want to talk about more than what we would say at our dinner tables. Otherwise, how can we really see to the bottom of these things? The well-known psychologist Sigmund Freud was the one that came up with the philosophy of having a couch in the room. Well, it's amazing, y'all. It's amazing when you research history and you don't just let somebody tell their story, where you go and research it for yourself. Actually, he was just a clumsy hypnotist, and so because he was so clumsy, he laid people on the couch that would help him with his hypnosis. So all these great things that perhaps you've heard about Sigmund Freud, right? When you do the research, you know that he got all this from his brother-in-law that he didn't really do all the things that the book said. That's a sermon for another day. But anyway, I learned that this is where the idea of the couch comes from. Understand, a couch is a place where you can sit down and you can lay down. And when you get into the couch, you lay up as you're looking up toward God. And when you're on the couch, you don't get a chance to see the therapist because you're focusing on those things that are on the inside, those things that you have tucked away, those feelings that are hidden, those hidden things, those secret things that you tuck away from everyone because you're on the couch. So when you're on the couch, understand, if you want to compare that to when Jesus is saying, take my yoke. Take my yoke. Now, I know that we may have some bakers in the house, and they may be saying that, wow, Jesus was teaching us how to bake because he was talking about egg yolks that you put in your cakes. But no. That's the wrong kind of yoke. This is Y-O-K-E yoke. This yoke is the apparatus that you put around oneself or an animal that helps making carrying or pulling much easier. So in other words, if you had two oxen, you would have a yoke, and each oxen would have a head in each side of the yoke, and as they are walking and plowing, so that one ox doesn't get more tired than the other ox, the yoke has them equally distributing all the weight upon each other. So what is that saying about Jesus' yoke? Well, in this case, the yoke around us is Jesus is on one side and we're on the other side. But the difference is when it gets heavy, Jesus just takes the lead. And so when the yoke is upon Jesus, he's saying, take my yoke and I will lead you through this heavy burden. So in other words, Jesus said, come in the room and bring your burdens to me, and that yoke is easy. I will lead you. Oh, I will lead you. Jesus is saying, I will take the bulk of all your heavy burdens. He said, because my load is light. He didn't say he didn't have any burdens. He was just saying they're light. So what we have to learn to do, Journey, what we have to learn to do is put on that yoke. But put it on with Jesus. And so when we're doing the best we can with what we have, and understand that when we're moving along, just tap Jesus on the shoulder and say, Jesus, I can't go on right now. This burden I have, this thing that's holding me back, I need you to lead for a while. And so Jesus is saying in the text, he's saying, I'm going to lead you through the valley of the shadow of death. He said there in that song, that you will find rest for your souls. But you know, you got to open the door to come into the room, to get on the couch, to talk to the Lord. Understand that Jesus is saying, if you want to find rest, wholeness, completion, that you just got to give him your burdens. Getting to know Jesus helps us to know ourselves better. In the pursuit of Jesus, it's about at the same place, it's that point that we understand that we're pursuing wisdom. Understand little Blake at 5 years old, though she has a mind of a child because she's a child. But understand, if you train a child up in the way they should go, when she's older, she won't depart from it. So you have to carry your burdens. Carry your burdens to the Lord. So in other words, you got to get to that couch. Well, understand that couch is, there's healing on that couch. There's rest on that couch. There's renewal on that couch. There's relaxation on that couch. There's rejuvenation on that couch. There's relationship on that couch. There's love on that couch. There's understanding on that couch. There's grace on that couch. There's mercy on that couch. Everything you need is on that couch. But if you don't open the door, go into the room, and get on the couch, and how can you be healed? Getting to your couch, getting to that couch. See, you got to get to get through. Let me say that again, because that has some Ebonic origins. You have to get to get through. You know your get to is when no matter what is going on, I got to get there. Somehow, some way, I got to get there. If you want to know what get to means, there was a woman with an issue of blood. She said, I heard about Jesus. I know Jesus is coming. So she pressed her way. She moved through the crowds because her get to was going to get her through. She didn't stop even though she didn't talk to Jesus. She said, if I could just touch the hem of his garment. That's what it means to get to get through. Blind Bartimaeus had to get to his get through because he's like, I want to see. The man on the mat for 38 years. He said, I heard about a man that's coming through. And so his get to got him to the place where he could be healed. The woman who was bent over for 18 years, she kept coming to church because she needed her get through. Zacchaeus, little short man, he wanted to see Jesus. He couldn't see over the crowds. He was a short man, so he got up in that tree so he could see Jesus. You see, that's his get through. The leper, get through. You have to get to get through. And all get to is your persistence. All get to is what little Blake did, your vulnerability. Your get to is your courage. Your get to is your trust. Your get to is your map for understanding where to go to get healed. Journey, what about your get to? Can you get to get through? Well, I know I'll confess that there's some days that my get to ain't got no get up. But I know the other days I'll say, Lord, if you don't get me up, I'm not going to get up. And if I think God doesn't hear me, I say it again. And I say it again. And I say it again until I hear that knock on the door. And I said, come on in the room. And God says, get up, son. And just like at the end of that conversation with the parents, they said, I love you. And I'm sure her mama said, when she says, I want to play, can I play with my iPad? She says, I love you. Yes. Then she probably said, now get up. So understand, I back in the days, BC, right, before Christ, I used to love to go down, I would sneak from Morris College and I would go down to the South Carolina State games. And on this particular day, this is back when State was a powerhouse, and when Coach Jay said something, it was going to come true. Well, Coach Jeffries had predicted a victory of this particular game, and I think it was an ESPN game, and so I was like, man, I need to get down there so I can get on TV. And so I said I couldn't find a ride, but I got to, because I was getting to see them Bulldogs beat, I think it was Grambling. And so Coach Jay said, I guarantee a win. I guarantee a win. So we knew it was going to be an easy victory. So we got to the game, got inside of the game. Man, it was so, the atmosphere was loud, and the band with 101 was doing a thing. We was rocking, and we just knew because Coach Jay said that it's a victory. This game is over. We know we don't win the game, so we was just doing all kinds of things in the stand. All of a sudden, Grambling scored a touchdown. We said, oh, man, that's Grambling. We about to blow them out. All of a sudden, Grambling scored again, and another, and like Slick Rick said, and another, and another, and another, and another. And so by halftime, we all were scratching our heads like, wait a minute. Coach Jay, you said we supposed to get this victory. Well, at this time, things started looking bleak. I could see it on the football player's face. They were looking at Coach Jay, and they were saying, Coach Jay, we need to get into that locker room. Well, at halftime, I looked up at the score, and I said, oh, Coach Jay was wrong on this one. He might have predicted it. He might have said that we were going to get this victory. But, oh, no, I'm looking at the scoreboard. Even though it's halftime, ain't no coming back in this game. So all I know is he went inside that room. I don't know what he said, but if I did know what he said, I couldn't repeat it here at Journey Church. But all I know is when they came out, they had a different pep in their step. But I was like, I'm not being fooled because I kept looking at the scoreboard. I said, yeah, y'all might come close, but y'all not winning today. You know, when teams start losing that you're pulling for, I went back to Mars. I said, let me see what Mars College. I said, oh, we ain't got no football team. But anyway, you see, when the circumstances, it had me a little confused because the coach had said we were going to have victory, but the scoreboard said we were losing the game. So they went into the room, and Coach Jay said some words. They came back out with a pep in their step. But see, all the fans had got so disinterested in the game because of the score. There was people doing all kinds of things. We didn't have social media back then, but I swear I saw somebody playing tic-tac-toe in the stands. I saw somebody who was making plans. I saw a teacher. She was doing her plans for the next day because it was on a Thursday night. But it didn't look good for the team. So we sat there and we watched. All of a sudden, the Bulldogs scored. And I said, look, I looked at the score. I said, no, I don't care that Coach Jay predicted a victory. This is the third quarter. We still losing. But another score, and another score, and another score, and it began to look a little different. I looked up. I said, it's close. It's going to look good for the press tomorrow. But the Bulldogs is going down, even though Coach Jay had predicted the victory. But I noticed something. When we got in the fourth quarter, I noticed something. When the four fingers went up, I guess something shifted in the atmosphere. I heard the band director say something. He looked over at the band. I could hear him. I saw him raise up, and the band came up at the same time. I said, I don't know what's going on, but do y'all see the score? Why do y'all want to play when we're losing this game? Because the circumstances were so bad. But the band director said he had everybody get up, and I began to hear a song in the background. Somebody said, get up. I said, what did y'all say? I had never heard this before. Somebody said, get up. I said, get up, and the band went to swaying. They said, get up for the Bulldogs. Everybody get up. They said, get up for the Bulldogs. Everybody get up. And everybody in that stand, one person stood up, another person stood up, and before we knew it, everybody was standing up. They had that place rocking left and right, and all of a sudden, the Bulldogs scored another, and another, and another, and another, and another, while we were saying, get up for the Bulldogs. Everybody get up. And at the end of the game, Coach Jay got on. He got on the mic, And he looked down and said, I told y'all I predicted a victory. So all you had to do was get up. So I'm telling you that 2,000 years ago, Jesus got up on the cross and said, we got the victory. No matter what we're going through, no matter what this pandemic says, no matter what the president says, no matter what the governor says, we got to get up and we got to get out. We got to get up for Jesus. We got to get up for Jesus. We got to get up for Jesus. Get up for Jesus. If you don't know in the morning you're tired, just remember, get up for Jesus. Somebody know, somebody need to hear this. You got to get up for Jesus. If you believe that we have the victory, or you don't look at the scoreboard, we look like we're down. South Carolina, number 3 in the world, right? But I'm going to the door. Open that door. I'm going into that room. I'm going to sit on that couch. I'm going to have a soul talk with Jesus. And I'm going to get up when I don't feel like getting up. I'm going to tell him how I really feel, like Sister Blake did. When the times are hard, the days I don't want to get up, I'm going to say, Jesus, I don't feel like getting up. On my good days, I'm going to say thank you for the day. Because you notice that little Blake, after she had lamented and cried out to Jesus, her parents, she said, can I play with my iPad? That was just her thanking them for what they had given her in the midst of all she was going through. She was counting her blessings. She said, Mom, Dad, can I play with my iPad? Mom said, I love you. And yes. And get up. Journey, I'm saying today, I have a therapist, but I also know the therapist. I'm merely saying we just got to get up. Understand there's a place that Jesus has made for us. He said it in his word, that he'll give us rest. It's okay to be tired. God knows I've been tired. There's times that I cannot get out of my bed. I would roll over to roll over. I was just looking at the clock. I didn't even know what time of day it was. I keep seeing more and more bad news. I keep asking myself, when is it going to be over? Then I said, God, when is it going to be over? But God just affirms your pain, and he says, I know that this hurts you, and I love you. And so I'm able to get up because of the one who got up on a cross for me. Oh, it's tough times. It's probably halftime for us. Oh, yeah, we're losing the game. But I know God predicted. Jesus said we got the victory. He said it like this. He said tetelestai in Greek, which means it is finished. And I don't know when, but I know who. I know that Jesus will come through. So get to so you can get through. But know that God has not forgotten about you.